James Poeartistry.online. Good day, perceptive readers. Think about this discussion as Babylon 5. Forgave and forgot. You will see what I mean as we develop this discussion. Before we get into Babylon 5, forgave and forgot, you see, is this. James Poeartistry.online. I've put out a new book. That's actually James Poeartistry Heart Picks. And it's actually, has poetry in it, writings, articles, monologue moments. That's on Amazon. It even has a limited edition cover for the book, you see. And all I do is I encourage you. You purchase the book, make sure you keep your receipt. Okay? Yeah, make sure you keep your receipt. And anyway, let me go ahead and talk about James Poeartistry on another line of thinking. I've also started my Bible readings back up again. Okay. And I never really stopped. I never considered it just stop. But there's sometimes there's no new ones. See, I'm still uploading from over the years some of the ones that I've made from time to time, if you notice that. And there's quite a few of them. But here it is. Since we've been talking about ethics and principles quite a bit, and I've told you, by reading God's Word, the Holy Bible, you read it enough times, and you actually see the principles, the thoughts on, hey, this would be good in this situation. Guess what? Even though it's not mentioned specifically at all, you just see from either the commands or the actions of God, how it turned out good. You see what I'm saying? Now, those Bible readings that I'm actually going into right now happens to come out of the book of Proverbs. You will notice that I've been reading just 5 verses at a time. Talk about an affirmation moment there. You see what I'm saying? There's some pretty interesting thoughts that's in the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, but we're actually reading Proverbs, dear perceptive reader. Now, let's talk about Babylon 5, you see, forgive and forgot. You see, or forgave and, you see, forgot. Babylon 5, those writers, I'm telling you, one day I'm going to have to, mention in writings, maybe in a post on the website, exactly who the writers were for that show. But they are another series that, was in the 90s, you see, because there was a lot of series, I would say, from the 80s, even including the 90s. And this is not knocking, you see, the 2000s, this century at all. No, I just want to make my point that when you look at the writing from those persons of these different series, they continue to prove the point, at least to me, why writers' jobs should never go off into, you see, no longer needed area, obsolescence, if you will. Human writing, no matter how much, you see, the AI can put together a script, I still feel strongly that human writers, and we could dive into it even more, which we already have, are very much needed and should always be used. You see, their talents, maybe in all the foibles as well that humans have, but that's all part of making a great series, a great script, if you will. And so I want you to know on the buymecoffee.com James Poeartistry, I have in my exclusive supporters access group, Jakar Forgives Londo, the Poeartistry commentary. See, that is not on the website. You see, the only way that, you can listen to that one where it says Jakar Forgives Londo, the Poeartistry commentary, is by donating as little as $1. You see, I always say again, man, a good conversation is worth, I would say, buying somebody a cup of coffee. Don't get me started. That's the way I've lived for years. And then I've even, talked about the wisdom you can get from it, the good time. I mean, a good time is worth your money, isn't it? That's why people like to go to operas. They like to go to theater. They like to go to sports events and all sorts of entertainment, and will pay huge amounts of money to have their eyes and their ears, you see, enlivened, tickled, lightened up, and things of that nature. Okay, so the same thing goes here. So that Jakar Forgives Londo, the Poeartistry commentary, is exclusive still for the buymecoffee.com. But what I'm going to do is actually link it to what I'm talking about right now, which will be public, okay, on the official podcast. So what are we talking about? What do I mean by that? Babylon 5 had different planets. You see different civilizations on different planets and different backgrounds, cultures, belief systems, etc. And some of those belief systems actually were totally opposite from the others, and yet Babylon 5 was there to help them to at least be able to work together and do commerce. You see what I'm saying? And keep the peace throughout the galaxy or universe of that nature, you see. At least all the planets that were not beyond the realm. Beyond the realm jumped into a totally different, almost like it sounds like a dimension. They didn't know what was out there, you see. So the whole point is these was all the planets of aligned worlds or what have you that were within the realm. Now, here it is, you had Ambassador, you see, Malari, who would eventually become the emperor of the Centaur. Why all of a sudden I can't even say the name? Centauri. Okay, Centauri. Now, what happened is Jakar was also of a totally different race that they had fought together, and talk about irony and the turn of events, that now he somehow ended up, you can follow it along and you can see how it happened. I'm just saying he somehow, to people that would just look at one moment, they hate one another. Now, all of a sudden, he has Jakar being his bodyguard. How did that happen? Well, maybe we'll talk about it again one day. But the whole point is Jakar, his race, happened to, be in prison, not only on their planet, but then some of them were actually still on Centauri. And one day, Jakar had figured out, and he wasn't even looking for it, that there was some food going into a prison in a cell that nobody knew about, and it was all dark, and it was no reason for anybody to think anybody was in that prison. You see what I'm saying? But by food going there, he told Malari, take him there right now so that he can see who's in there. Come to find out, it happens to be one of Jakar's people. So with that being said, it was a woman, and she was in bad health and everything. And he told Mallory, he said, get her out of here right now. And so, he did it, and the woman was released and things of that nature. But Jakar, once again, was looking at Mallory as, how could you do something like this? How could your people do something like this? The war was over, that they had just got, that they had finished fighting. And here they still had a prisoner that nobody knew about and certainly would have died in there if just by coincidence, but maybe in this case, people say maybe by fate, that Jakar was really, alert to the signs for this and for that. That helped them to put 2 and 2 together to find out, no, something's going on. There's a prisoner there. Let's go find out who it is. Okay. But I wanted to share that with you because Mallory actually felt bad about it. And so he said, these things just happen sometimes, Jakar. These things just happen. And so he went on to relate of an order that was given, I believe, thousands of years ago from the earlier emperors or something of that nature, where he was walking with his daughter through this type of passageway garden, and the first flower or something had came up, and his daughter loved it so much that the emperor said, he placed a guard there to guard that flower. So, nothing would happen to that flower. And that order and decree was given. So Mallory went on to say, even after the flower died, the daughter grew up, died, the emperor who gave the command died. You see what I'm saying? And now, thousands of years later, apparently, I know at least was the hundreds, but I think it made it sound like it was 500 years later or 1,000 years later or something like that. A guard was still standing at that post where no flower was there. You see, reported there every single day. Until finally, somebody asked the question, why is that guard there? You see, hundreds or thousands of years later. And so what happened is they looked it up and they found out what emperor gave that command for the guard to be there, even though, and so the command was still in place. Guess what? Even though it was no reason at all for that type of command to no longer be active. The reason for, that order had long disappeared. You see what I'm saying? Had long been gone. So it was just really no reason at all. Okay? Now, with that being said, he explained that to Jakar. Now, what I want to share with you is the same thing today. In some situations we have with people. You heard me talk about in the state that we are in this world today, where we can get on each other's nerves. We can hurt one another at times, and then guess what? We forgive one another, and then we go about our business, and then it just happens again because we're imperfect or what have you. Sometimes, forgiveness happens, but due to whatever the situation is that caused the disruption in the first place, it may not be, totally resolved in this situation or that situation. Here's what I mean. The same way that I used that example about the guard still being there, even though it was no reason for that guard to be there at all. You see, the guard, putting up the guard every day, the guard, return to the place every day. Well, sometimes, depending on our interactions with persons, even though they may forgive us, what can still happen? What does still happen today? The person may still be guarded, may still put up their guard every day, even though there's really no valid reason for them to do so. Yeah, I'm talking about, talking on the surface. The whole point is, whatever it is that even has hurt them, you see what I'm saying? In some person's outlook on the matter, it's like it's all gone. And yet, there's two other ways of looking at this. One, the situation can be totally over with and resolved, and yet that order to the heart and mind of the person who has been hurt still hasn't been really thoroughly received. You see what I'm saying? So the guard goes up. And another way of still looking at this is this. Depending on whatever type of connections people have at times, you see, you can no longer be a part of a group of people that you once were a part of that was doing something that hurt somebody. You see what I'm saying? Yet, during the time that maybe we were associated with this person or that person, what have you, and if we really, like I said, whether it was purposely done or not, enacted something that caused the person to put up their guard, even if that person forgives you, whatever it is that you enacted, you see, could still be having an effect every time you try to get close to this person. Do you understand what I'm saying, perceptive reader? I wanted to give you this example of Babylon 5 because sometimes even we think we know the whole situation, we still don't know what's going on inside the person's heart and mind. And that should be respected. You see, that should be respected. You heard me talk about that before. So if someone just keeps their distance from you, sometimes they say it's loving you from a distance or what have you, then why would you want to push something even further upon that person when you already know the guard had to come up anyway because of maybe something you or I, when none of us really are immune to this, had did something to put that person in that state or frame of mind. So make no mistake about it. I always talk about exceptions to the rule for this or that, because sometimes people will say, well, you know what, if you still feel the pain of this and that, then that means you didn't forgive that person. And I told you, human beings are complicated. Sometimes that's the case, and guess what? Sometimes it really isn't. So thank you, Perceptive Reader, for being here. Have a very wonderful day and take good care of yourself.